Um, I guess just by way of introduction, I just wanted to acknowledge that Michael Pearson's event at Fordham on June 11th, followed by a salon organized by Human Energy, one of our partner organizations, on the 12th, were really very interesting and successful, and I think contributing to the New Paradigm Coalition objectives. So I think that we'll probably, and there's a lot of follow on both of those. So I think we'll be reporting on those in future Mondays. But now I'd like to welcome Tomas Veloz. Welcome, Tomas. And
Thank you.
You wear many hats. Basically, you have a background in mathematics, computer science, chemistry. So I guess we could call you smack dab in the middle of complex systems science. And you have two bases, one in Brussels and one in Chile, and you're involved in the formation of a Chilean hub for the New Paradigm Coalition. Increasingly, we're deciding to call our hubs hives as a better term to to connote the cooperation of of a of a hive, and hives are forming. Very exciting on a number of fronts. So, Thomas, I'm really looking forward to what you're going to be talking about, because I think it will be quite directly relevant to the organization of the New Paradigm Coalition. We've done a little bit with social networks and what we call a public CRM. But I think what you have to say is going to be a lot more advanced with respect to technology and AI and so on. And so I'm very excited to learn about this, both in general and in relation to our coalition, basically. So take it away.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, as a first talk here, which I'm glad to be, I will try to come to more general terms, and towards the end I will speak a little bit about some more technical stuff. But I want to somehow bring this this whole framework that we have been discussing to a form. So thank you for people attending to this talk. I hope this conveys a little bit of the points that we have been discussing with David and others, and so we can have a discussion on it. Maybe you are all familiar with this, so I didn't know exactly the attendance, but I want to build the story. So we will begin with this idea of progress, where what scientific and technological progress, and you're probably familiar with these plots showing how technology is rising and growing, and it's exponentially growing, and there is an accelerating pace, and yeah, all these concepts, you know, like growth, exponential growth, and improvements. And now we are facing this transition with the let's say combination or autocatalytic combination of all these novel technologies, AI, Internet of Things, robotics, blockchain, quantum computing, and stuff like that. So we all believe, or people are starting to believe, that we are going to have a singularity somewhere in the next few years, a singularity where machines will surpass human knowledge and will be way smarter than us, and our very notion of being, it's going to be questioned, because I think, then I am, it's going to be something questionable, you know. Machines think, then I am, could be, or something like that. So, but we also have this other story coming from the philosophy of science, that knowledge and science in general, which is the driver of technological progress, comes in revolutions, in cycles. So it's not so like exponent or purely exponential. It's more like there are cycles in between. And basically, for those that don't know this idea of scientific revolutions, and that explains, for example, the Copernican revolution, how do we perceive the motion of celestial bodies, or how do we understand the nature of the micro or the matter and energy from transiting from classical to quantum physics. So there are millions of examples where we can find that the ideas that we assume to make sense for what the world is have to be questioned, have to be refounded in order to in order to solve certain anomalies that the previous understanding called paradigm had. So we have a paradigm that normalizes the way we know, the way we learn, and that's where we see the progress. But after a while, there is always anomalies that emerge from this paradigm that lead to crisis, that lead to a completely change of paradigm that then later on gets settled and redefines what science is, what knowledge is. But this does not only happen in science, it happens also in the way we perceive social order as well. And it can be like extended as an idea of paradigm revolutions to even to art, for example. We get the classical period, the romantic period, and then the modern music. And so music also goes through these transitions. So it's not something that just belongs to science. And I claim, I start saying that I believe that we are in this part now, that all of us probably in the Prosocial Coalition are sitting somewhere in this phase. So are we focusing more on anomalies or in changing the worldview or resetting the paradigm? So the job of the Prosocial Coalition is to facilitate this transition. And I will speak a little bit about the anomalies and all this, let's say this arrow, orange arrow here. And that an important thing to keep in mind here, because we are thinking about paradigm changes. This is not a true story. Nothing that I'm saying here is a true story, but I'm summarizing. It's a Western story because the paradigm is itself coming from a strongly Western perspective. And the very concepts then that we will be discussing, that we are talking about, have a significant trace of dominant practices in terms of the knowledge that we are dealing with. It's not just like, divine knowledge. It's the knowledge that gets established through certain processes. So I'm not criticizing this, but just understand or put in perspective that we don't have to think or trust blindly that we are free thinking. We are not necessarily free thinking. And this is also something that came out in the philosophy of science history later, right after Kuhn, maybe a few years after, this idea of the epistemological anarchism, that what we believe, what dominates knowledge is not necessarily being right, but what has the means to establish something. And that's also something to keep in mind. It's just something that to base our baseline thinking that we're going to have in this talk. So the inequality phenomena between the global north and global south could be thought as a significant or visible anomaly of the Western paradigm that proposes this idea that we're going to have this type of growth as we were seeing with technology. And this is because the right set of values and the right set of freedom, let's say, the right setting for human freedom will just, flourish and veil some progress for everyone. But then the parallel reality of this is that we see a lot of growth or wealth in one part of the world at the expense of another part of the world that is somehow exploited for that benefit. So this is like the typical, it's just like the anomaly, how the anomaly is typically presented. I look a little bit further to this. I think the phenomenon is much more complex, and I imagine that all of you also agree with that. Because, for example, geographically speaking, it's just not global north and global south. There are multi-level nested patches of wealth and poverty everywhere. You have like the fentanyl crisis in the US, the wealthy country, or you have in France, you go to Paris, you go everywhere in the world. The richest places always have these poverty patches, and also in wherever you go in Africa and Latin America, you will have very rich people, even richer than many of the rich people in the global north. So it's completely multi-level or fractal-like, geographically speaking. And also social and psychologically speaking, it's not just about wealth, but also about sense of belonging or sense of containment by your community or happiness, which is maybe you can be in a very wealthy place and feel alone. Like in Sweden, I know that many people commit suicide because of things like that. or in Japan, and while in poor communities in, I don't know, in Chile or in other countries in Africa, people live happy and celebrate, you know, all their gods and all their religious things, and they feel contained and keep going with it. Politically speaking as well, we see it's not just domination. We see a lot of open trade and cooperation opportunities, or yeah, like people doing those kind of things, philanthropy, and like governments change and ideas change. And so it's not just so simple as like these are the oppressed and the oppressor, and that is something that continues. Maybe in some places it could be established as such, but in most places it's not so strongly established in this way. A similar nuanced analysis can be done to many other wicked problems, and I put war here because war is also, it's now a very timely concept. I feel actually very weird discussing about these prosocial ideas while the world is kind of falling apart, but it's a form of, I guess, a form of resistance to connect, to talk about this. So the message that I will try to convey in the next 15, 20 minutes is that we must harness technology, including AI, not just AI, but including AI, all technology, as a tool to build a new paradigm where pervasive cooperation can lead us to this meta-system transition where weak problems will seem primitive. This is something that I really deeply believe that I will explain these concepts in case you don't know them in detail, but I will elaborate a little bit on that. Before starting with the construction, I will still continue with one more criticism, which is necessary to move forward, is that what we understand as, in scientifically speaking today, what we understand as the explanandum of most things that we observe, phenomena we observe, we have an explanandum, some sort of goal, why something is the way it is. It's what's the goal of it. It's that there is an underlying optimization process. So, and this is the typical picture of an optimization process in anything, in Wellington landscapes, or you can see AI parameter space or whatever. It's just like you have to go from somewhere where the lower cost is, or the higher fitness, or so I will explain actually what do I mean by this. And this is the dominant paradigm. We think in these terms, at least science and technology and many other fields think in this way, that it's all about optimization. So you have to find the right optimization process, and then you kind of crack the nut, you know what to do. And this is something I will also question. So, for example, in evolution, it's all about species fitness optimization. That's what drives evolution. So we cracked evolution because we understood this concept of fitness, and now it matters what it means now to study evolution, is to study what is fitness and how different species optimize their fitness, and how evolutionary changes will make this species fitness improve through inheritance and adaptation and so on. So, but this fixed a lot what's going on, and David has criticized that as well. So it's not just about, you can question the word species, you can question the word fitness, or you can question the word optimization in it. So, but it's interesting that it goes as a package and is passed as a truth in science. Same in economics, we have agents like individuals or companies, and it's all about expected utility optimization. You should act rationally towards improving or optimizing your expected utility. And this is also like, you know, baseline thinking. You go to the university, you get taught these things are this way. If you study, for example, cell metabolism in biology or cell biology, it's the way we solve the behavior of a cell. It's okay, let's impose this biomass production optimization in order to analyze what it's doing. It's actually a constraint that is, it helps to solve mathematically the equations. So it's useful, so we use it, and we assume cells are pretty much optimizing their biomass production, or in standard conditions, at least. So an intelligence it's some sort of optimization, and some people define it as representational optimization. So you use the least possible memory and retrieval capacities, or your most optimizing prediction capacities in the style of Freestone and other people are very popular in for consciousness research, or problem solving, which is like the oldest, I guess, view of this, that intelligence is a way to solve problems. The more problems you're able to solve, the more intelligent you are, IQ tests, and so on. But now the very process of goal configuration for this phenomenon is kind of left under the carpet, because how does problem solving, how does a problem become a problem? And how mass or how biomass is actually produced. So in order to optimize something, you gotta have a process to optimize this. So why biomass it's even producing, you know? Why, if biomass product optimization is the thing to optimize, why is that even happening? And this is the major problem of the optimization paradigm that doesn't doesn't solve why the problem is even there, or why the thing is have to be even there to be optimized. So basically, this concept and this knowledge is the consequence of an evolutionary trajectory of how knowledge has been developed throughout history. And this is, if we go to the oldest forms of education, the techniques in the Greeks, the academics, the rhetorics, Islamic and Roman, knowledge has served the purpose to organize the society. This is what knowledge has been transmitted for over generations. It's kind of like providing the right tools for people to organize society in the current way the society is organized. So that's why rhetoric and logic and in the Roman times, the law became very important, because in order to keep the large empire, you need to have many people knowing about law. And this has been always separated. So we have created over the generations separations of knowledge into this is for this is for that, and different things for different stuff. And the modern university scheme has the traditional disciplinary division that has to deal with the Industrial Revolution and the new form of organizing the society after the Industrial Revolution. So this is how it typically looks, the map of disciplines in a university. You get faculties, and then you get departments, Faculty of Natural Sciences, Physics, Chemistry, blah, 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 Formal Sciences. And with minor changes, most universities and most institutions dedicated to transmit knowledge are organized in this way. But now we get the Sustainable Development Goals, maybe from like 30 years or 20 years, or, not so long ago. It's very new for the way in which knowledge has been structured. So we got these new challenges: no poverty, no hunger. And they don't kind of match in any of these disciplines. So you cannot put the no poverty problem in the archaeology or in social work or in law or in politics. It belongs to all of them. So the idea of organizing knowledge in this way misses the point of dealing with challenges that have to be dealt by multiple or all of them simultaneously. And how do you organize that? So who is in charge of that? If you put them, there is no way to organize the Sustainable Development Goals in a university traditional educational frame or faculty framework. And that's why universities and knowledge and academia in general is not doing well at solving these problems. And that's why we prosocial and so on. It's a new view. So if we look at this, basically the problem is that all perspectives we can put about a particular problem, in this case, you get industry and urban science and economics, they all interact with each other, but they do not only interact with each other, they interact in the context of the other. So it's not the same the way in which industry affects urban systems for a particular financial context or economic context versus another. So it's contextual. Interactions are contextual. This is very profound and important, that the one-to-one interaction thing is kind of flawed in this sense. And also we have many perspectives to keep in mind. It's not just economy, industry, and urban. We get political system. We have to incorporate well-being. We have to incorporate as well biodiversity to understand our role in the ecological system and how to put all these things together. This is actually the paradigm or the way of thinking that complex systems brings about. So we have interdisciplinarity on the one side for understanding problems that are complex, as I was describing before for inequality as a prior case. So we have to reflect critically on why structures of knowledge are positioned the way they are, and why that is preventing that these complex and interdisciplinary approaches flourish within the academic structures. At least I'm speaking from this side of the landscape, you know, like I come from the academia, so I can speak mostly from there. And there is another important ingredient that is a little bit deeper than that, is our very understanding of what knowledge is. So we start from this idea of knowledge as a marble tower, where on top of it are the, you know, the professors and like the people who know better about it. But the problem is that this idea of knowledge has a very profound, misleading aspect as well. Because most of the knowledge that we teach at the universities, or the knowledge that is understood as knowledge, is theoretical knowledge. That means knowledge you can put in a book. But there is also practical knowledge, like, for example, learning to dance or learning to plant a tree. You can read all the instructions in a book about how to do that, but unless you do it with your own hands, with your own body, you cannot embody this dancing knowledge. And also there is an even more less structured form of knowledge, which is understood, known as experiential knowledge. That is like, for example, loving someone. You can't read all books about love, and if you don't love someone, you know nothing about love. It's the same with dancing. So not all knowledge is theoretical, but universities have made this thing of focusing as if things to know were all theoretical, and that everything is in the library or in a Wikipedia or whatever. So there are more dimensions for knowledge as well. And actually, there is another distinction that is very important, is that not everything we know is immutable by getting to know it. The position of stars or science assumes that things we can study, they won't change by us observing them. But for example, your knowledge about the taste of a dish changes when you know, when you try it. But when you try it, you also use the thing you eat. So it's not anymore edible. So you change what you know. I want to know the taste of this French fry. I eat the French fry. There is no French fry anymore to be eaten. So I'm changing what I'm knowing. Unless you assume that you can replicate every French fry, and then you go to the scientific method and so on. But we can ultimately arrive to quantum particles or to particular interviews with people or teaching. So we change the mind of the person learning when we teach the person. So the knowledge of teaching, it's permanently inactive. We change what we learn about. And there could be even a more extreme form, which is creative. I bring something about, something anew to the world. So that is something that cannot be passive as the position of stars. All the future poems, songs, or ideas are not yet in the world. And they are also things to be known. So knowledge is not just that static thing that we typically think. And yeah, I make this distinction of create. And if we analyze this more deeply, I'm not going to talk about it, but there are many forms of knowledge that involve theory, practice, experience, and that is very significant to our understanding of what is to know something. Universities and traditional education and the history of progress I was discussing, it's looking at a very narrow part of it. So education must value theory, practice, and experience equally, at least, or not so like invalidate experience over theory, at least, you know? So like experience is as important, and this changes curricula, changes our understanding of how important empathy is to advance education, to advance knowledge and understanding. So then I made this little picture of like more harmonic view of knowledge, where you don't have this marble tower where you have the stupid people and the illuminated people, but everybody is part of an ecology of knowledges. Nothing new really, but I'm trying to put these ideas together. So the experience now, to go a little bit deeper, it's something that it's hard to theorize. You know, in philosophy and in many other fields, experience is a sort of, nobody can talk about it very precisely. But I will try to give an organic perspective to the notion of experience. So competition is back again accepted as a major driver for evolution, and that, as I said, is the current view of the paradigm for what experience means at the biological, ecological, psychological. So I experience in order to adapt, in order to get better, in order to improve, and in order to gain the competition game, whatever game it is, with others. And this is what has supposed to unfold the whole view of the organic world. We have the hippies and the fungi, and everybody has tried to adapt in its own way in an individual manner, trying to get there. And what we observe today as a snapshot of the biological world is just what was able to, you know, survive, remain, maintain via competition with the competitors. So that's the view that we have to buy and accept. But I kind of want to flip this view to say, like, experience for organic beings, at least, like us or bacteria or any other biological thing, experience is at the same time being experienced by another level or entity. And hence the experience itself is cooperative from scratch. And this is a sort of paradigmatic change, because when I have an experience, also my inner organs and even my cells are experiencing myself or ourself experiencing that. So the idea of experience as a sort of, you know, one-to-one interaction, passive, without any interactions in between, I think it's very basic, let's say, and we can do better than that. I'm trying to propose. And this gives, it's a deep slide, this one, but brings a lot of lessons, because it invites considering others as part of ourselves, at least at a particular level. For those that don't know the multi-level paradigm, this is kind of makes sense. You know, I am, but we are as well. So I am part of you at whatever, some other level. And this is by default, can be. You cannot deny that at the beginning. So there's no ultimate level. And these cooperations that we observe in our body, in this organic perspective, show that the parts that can act at multi-level structures enable and constrain what can happen. And that is fundamental for understanding that the expected utility of doing something, so the fitness or the whatever action we perform, can be looked as something maybe of value, but at another given scale, another scale that maybe is at a higher level. And that's because we form ecologies, and these ecologies form levels, and the levels also have their own identity. So cooperation can turn out to be much better than competition under the right circumstances. And that's why we are complex beings, multi-level, from cells to what we are, like a completely, I don't know, several levels of cooperation leading to the creation of another being. So our traditional view to individual evolution, either technological or biological or whatever, as a linear thing, I think is one of the core problems that create anomalies to our paradigm of understanding the world. So there is not only a direction of growth for a particular level, but also the goal change by metasystem transitions. That is the generation of a new level. So I will explain this very briefly. This is a typical view of how life started, from specific chemical components playing different roles and establishing the first last unknown common ancestor. So that required that different things happen. Substrate, catalyst, a membrane has to be formed. And inside this membrane, you need to form some sort of minimal metabolic system. And that's how you explain the origin of life. That's how science is explaining the origin of life today. There is no ultimate answer, but there is a strong agreement that all these ingredients have to come together somehow. The ability to repair, the ability to harness energy from the environment, and so on. And the same story. So sorry, there's a transition here between a molecule world to a living unit world. So the transition from chemistry to biochemistry. This transition is important because the goals of a living first cell are completely different to the goals of the molecules forming it, because there is a systemic goal that is developed out of the living entity. The same happens for complex cellular structures like eukaryote cells. So we got the creation of the first cells lead to a world of cells and molecules, but then these cells started eating somehow each other. This is called the serial endosymbiosis theory. Some cells were living inside other cells, and then there were processes, evolutionary processes inside that lead to the specialization of parts inside and so on, and led to these complex cells, last endosymbiotic common ancestor. So out of a world of single prokaryote cells, we got a world of eukaryote cells with organelles inside, including a nucleus and ribosome and so on. And this is the typical picture now. So you get solitary cells. Now, these are eukaryote cells. You get solitary eukaryote cells that start forming colonies. They get attached to each other and they form tissues now, multicellular structures. You get from cells as in very simple individuals to complex units, the eukaryote cells, and then these eukaryote cells getting together and forming complex geometric structures that are tissues, like skin or part of our organs. And this is how we got the abiogenesis, RNA, DNA, cells, and a lot of things in between here that up to getting brains and up to getting elements like us. So we are transiting from different levels of evolutionary state, let's say. And these are characterized by these metasystem transitions. And what is the metasystem transition doing? And also we can apply this to culture as well, to social order as well. So this idea of multi-layers, I mean, for those that know the multi-level paradigm, this is trivial. But the metasystem transition, the major thing that brings in is that unlocks novel affordances that individuals did not have, but the new level of organization at the collective level can implement. And that's what it's understood as downward causation. So the meta level is able to alter, maybe positively, maybe negatively, the parts. But the system is itself made by these parts. So this redefined the notion of goal, because the system, the new level, has a new, most likely will have a new goal, and it establishes a hierarchy-like notion of being. So beings are not just static things, but are multi-level things. And their experience is also multi-level. Our experience is multi-level. I experience in my personal experience, but at the same time, my body is experiencing at many other levels. And my experience is just the accumulation of all that. So it's something we have to think differently. It's a paradigm change. That's the idea. So after giving all this picture, I want to make a very simple analysis now, just to come to the end, because I analyze the system of knowledge and knowledge production. How can we benefit from all that to speak about some sort of AI, some intelligence, knowing all this? How can we apply all this today? I will make just the case for the academic setting because it's the one I know better, but I believe this can be applied to any other domain. So we have certain challenges, certain opportunities, and certain methods that help to do this better. And I've been trying to advance this proposal to do these kind of things. So we know that information in academia, for example, I'm thinking of grounding. How can we do better prosocial intelligence, prosocial behavior in the academic world, just in the academic world? Information exists, but it's scattered. You got the university plans, strategic plans, development plans, but this change, these institutional priorities change and funding schemes change constantly. So we have to create adaptive systems that dynamically align with resources and evolving goals of institutions. If you want academics to cooperate and students to learn better, to do more exchanges. And we have like data mining, real-time knowledge discovery, and there are many tools that can be applied to this stage. But no university is doing all these things. So another typical problem that we have is that collaboration, as we are now, occurs but leads to unrecognized institutional bubbles. So we are somehow a community here, but how do we get like recognition or acceptance by other bodies? Who recognizes that prosocial coalition is a coalition and this is the group, and gives more visibility through their own networks and so on. We have to make it ourselves. We have to build it ourselves. And this is a difficult challenge because we don't know even where to go to cross-pollinate. So we have to discover all like as if there is no science behind. But we have also tools in AI, network analysis, community detection, that have to be created and have to be exploited, developed, in order to find the right places where to go and who to connect. Otherwise, it's done as a handcraft. So achievements generate positive feedback, but too late, generally. Many people have done amazing careers, and when they are in a very advanced stage, they start getting recognition. And what a missed opportunity for those people that could have gotten recognition and support earlier, might have done much better for their peers. So it's a shame, I think, for our times that we are not able to trace recognition paths and don't just give an award when you are retiring. That doesn't make any sense, because you should have gotten the support earlier on. So this can also be studied. There are anomaly detection, predictive analytics tools that can kind of trace and enhance the possibilities of different people to develop. And the same problem with younger talent. They have a lot of drive and energy, but they don't know much about technical and administrative things. But this requires creating more complex workflows, or at least one solution will be to make more complex workflows where people can engage in and have the necessary information they need to keep going. Nobody can build that, but AI systems can try to build that. They can make, there are AI coordination systems that can manage hundreds or thousands of people doing different things, and they know what's going on. No human can know what's going on in these large systems, then AI can do it easily. The same with the processes, the cooperation processes and so on, and there are process mining and communication graph analysis. So there are a suite of new methods. All these methods have like 10 years, no more, but they can be applied directly to the cooperation activities that we do today in a very, like, sort of, I will say, sorry for this, but I think it's primitive, the way we work, because we still like rely on each other fully to know what's going on, and we can start like giving some role to systems to know what's going on as well and help us, you know, as we do with other tools, but individually. We don't do it collectively yet. So that's why I think we need to go on through this meta system transition to create this or facilitate the creation of this larger collections of individuals operating together, assisted by AI, in order to deal with challenges that we know are interdisciplinary and are too complex for any discipline to tackle. So that's more or less the full picture. And I give a little bit of a more particular model. So how universities cooperate. And I'm talking only about that. As I said, this could be generalized to other structures, but for universities, I know the picture very well. You get one professor that cooperates from one university with another professor from another university. So in the best case, if they do it organizedly, they will create a memorandum of understanding that goes to the academic and probably international offices in both places. They are supposed to be finding new potential scholars. I don't know, the international office or the research office will find some potential scholars that will engage in this cooperation. But that never happens. What normally happens is that you get informal collaboration. So you apply to a grant together, you co-supervise students, or sometimes you go and teach one class or develop some prototype or some product. But because of its informality, it misses a lot of the power that it could bring from the institutional aspect. But when it goes to the institutional, it becomes hard to trace. The person that was in charge took holidays, so it didn't send the email it has to send, and the cooperation stops there. Or the professor changes from another institution, and so on. So the typical problems we face in this. So it always remains informal and weak, and it doesn't really grow through this supposed to be there for that institutional offices that are supposed to help on this. But I've been doing collaboration. I will show you in a bit a lot. And in all cases, in all universities, not only in this global south, but also in the global north, everywhere, this is very weak. The officers don't know much how things work. They see it just as something to deal with, but nobody's thinking in the larger setting, that typically not. So I have this foundation in Chile that I lead, and also we are starting now the Chilean hub. And these are my personal collaboration labs. I particularly created a research group in Belgium with more than 10 researchers so far. It has like 2 years. And it's very nice because people come from all over the world. We meet once every 2 weeks. And we have been doing lots of things. Many of them have started PhDs, have traveled, have gotten grants, and so on. And now I started the new phase of doing international collaboration, cooperation through grants, agreements, teaching, doing dual PhDs, and so on. So kind of enabling new affordances, as I said, for this particular case. And we are systematizing our work using some tools, not yet AI, but some organizational tools and calendars, and there are lots of tools around to foster collaborative work, but they are not used so much. And this is a new form of education, actually, to learn how to collaborate in the digital world. And I also work as a consultant for AI-driven cooperation technology company that is trying to build this in a larger scale. So we are in an experimental phase. This is completely new, and this will be the real picture that we would like to have in the future, where many different institutions are all connected to some sort of major, larger system that is able to look at what everyone is doing and making the right connections, fostering the right connections with the tools I just showed you. These are all like novel technologies, and make use of these institutional contexts that we have, but use them properly in order to make systemic growth for students, for professors, for the countries involved, for the communities around the universities, and for all the different levels at which academic knowledge is connected to. So I think that we are really in a need of doing that type of change. It's a new level change, let's say. We have the conceptual depth today, thanks to David, with the multi-level paradigm as a way to look at things, and also the meta-system transitions, and the understanding of scientific revolutions and changes of paradigm. We know what we're dealing with. And we have the data now, and we have the computer power to take this data and organize it. So we are able today, and not before, not 10 years ago, but today, to scientificize and professionalize cooperation. This will not be able to be applied everywhere at the same time. And I believe academia could be one of the first places where this can be developed, because we are closer to this conceptual depth and closer to the technologies that, or to use these technologies that allow for this type of things to happen. So I think it's a sort of responsibility for the academic world to kickstart this paradigm revolution. And so, though this can be applied elsewhere too, in other types of phenomena and other types of problems, but and that's why I say we are Prosocial Coalition and some other institutions that we are related to, like the Human Energy Project or some others, can be fundamental for giving credibility to this, because otherwise it's just like a one guy or few guys initiative. Credibility and support to create platforms that allow to understand some problems, community problems, or as I said, developmental problems in the academia, and facilitate communication with policymakers. So there are, we begin experimenting with this, trying these things out in the real world, and not with the previous methods of forever ago, with the new methods that we have in hand today only. So some personal snapshots just to finish. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my trajectory, but very quickly, 2 minutes. I did some work maybe 15 years ago in the Atacama Desert with the indigenous communities. I went to Germany to learn how to do solar power. I got my diploma, and I started making business and bringing solar panels to Chile while teaching about project management to the indigenous communities in the desert, installing as well solar panels there, and then impacting, talking to the authorities. The white guy there is the authority. Everyone else is indigenous. Of course, the white guy is the authority. And I was telling him there, like, look, man, you should start doing more education, and like more or less a similar message to what I was saying today. In parallel, I started my academic career giving talks in Europe, in many places, doing a PhD, France, Germany, Belgium, many institutes. And then I came back to Santiago, to Chile, and when we started an institute here, well, I was part of a cooperation with an institute there, and started teaching there and bringing important speakers like the person in charge of the quantum program in IBM, and bringing as well important speakers that are from Latin America, but back to Chile. This guy was working in the Allende project. Is the one remaining, the last one remaining that was very important in the Allende CyberSync project, for those who know. I also started talking back to the Chileans like Maturana. That's an interview I did to Maturana. We organized a homage to him. And in parallel, I started then working with the Chilean authorities. It's a trip I did to the Netherlands as part of the Superior Audit Court. I was a consultant for the Superior Audit Court to bring methods related to data science. And this is the Superior Audit Court in Washington. So trying to bring the data science and AI methods to the Chilean processes of audit. Later on, I created my own foundation, and we started doing social projects with children in poor, with complex life conditions, connecting science and art, or giving more and more seminars, organizing workshops and publishing books. And then I got some grants, and yeah. So then their career has started, and I finished with this talk today. This is the current state of affairs. So this has been a long trajectory to push these ideas of doing cooperation between the global and North and South, and enhancing and making use of technologies as well on the way. So you can see this is a sort of trajectory. And as a conclusion, I will bring the Zarathustra, the three transformation of the human spirit. You probably know this: the camel, the lion, and the child. So this is Nietzsche's understanding of how the human spirit evolves. So the camel, I will make a reinterpretation to the AI while I explain. So the camel is the first view. So it's a camel walks through the desert without knowing why. It's just following a path. Doesn't really know what's going on, and it's a criticism like the believers, someone that believes in God blindly and doesn't have questioning. That Nietzsche was very critical to church. So individual obediently accepts societal norms, traditions, and moral codes without questioning. That's the camel. That's the first stage of the human spirit. And actually in AI, we have decision trees that just follow directions. If this, then that. If this, then that. That's a way of programming decision trees. The lion is the, let's say, call it second story, is the objective function machine learning parallel to today, is a rebel. It questions the what is being given as a truth, and it's trying and beating and becoming better and improving at defining what's the correct thing rather than accepting what it's given. And that's what the AI systems are starting to do today. They are able to question what we present to them as the thing to do, and they offer new things to do that generally are better than what we ask for. We typically like what they give. Sometimes they give too much, but we typically like, and wow, this is surprising. I was asking for this and I got this other thing that was more right than what I even wanted. So they can prove themselves right. Like the lion is beating all its enemies, it's epistemological enemies. But then the lion ends up alone, kills all the other animals in the jungle, and remains alone and meaningless. So that's when the lion turns into a child. And the child has this capacity to detach and attach to value systems and rules through games and play. And that's how it lives free from external impositions, while also being capable of engaging deeply into something, into the rules of a particular game. But then it switches to another, and it can just detach as strongly as it attached. And that's for Nietzsche the hardest, the most advanced forms of the human spirit. And this is the type of AI we don't have. This is quite far, I think, for us to see. But I believe that this meta-system transition of prosocial intelligence can be a step towards going there, because the multi-level paradigm will require creation of communities, dissolution of communities, formation around problems, and there is no boss in the end. The boss is local to the problem, to the community, to the situation, and everybody can act accordingly, but then it's over and you go to the next challenge. And so I think there is a strong connection with that. So back to the difficult times we're living today, and as an end, I don't think we're at the end of the road, but at the edge of a corner where a new path has to begin. And that's what I would like to do with this coalition and with all the other people working with. So thank you.
Wow. Okay. That was deep. Oh, let's get back to share screen so we can see ourselves. Thank you so much, Thomas. That was really beautiful in many ways. So aesthetically beautiful in addition to intellectually beautiful. So we have a few minutes until the hour, and then I think, Thomas, you said you could stay on.
Yeah.
And so please let's have some comments. Graham.
Oh, you're
It's
muted.
muted.
Thank you. I was just saying, Thomas, absolutely magnificent. I loved what you're saying. So much overlap and resonance with what I'm up to. And if I understood correctly, you're spending some of your time in Belgium?
Yeah, half of my time. I'm leaving on Wednesday.
Perfect. Okay. So I live in Brussels. I fly out tomorrow to Iceland, but when you're next in Brussels, let's get together again and discuss some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two things I want to put in just as placeholders, and let's follow up asynchronously. First of all, are you familiar with the emerging field of ergodicity economics?
I've seen it, but no, not
Right.
not so.
Let's spend time diving into that, because one of the key conclusions from that is that in the real world, expected utility maximizers do not actually maximize expected utility. And a lot of what is currently explained through behavioral means is actually perfectly explained if you use the correct non-ergodic statistics for growth dynamics in an economy, or growth dynamics of biomatter in a natural region. And this is directly relevant to why multi-level selection is necessary and why you have cooperation and competition. So I'd love to dive into that with you. The other thing to dive into again separately is once upon a time, I was an academic. I left academia 30 years ago, and I've been in business ever since then. But I'm constantly trying to nudge academics to collaborate more, to study academically some of the things that I'm putting into practice in business. And I really like what you're doing there. I think this could be really helpful with some of the academic partners that I'm engaged with. Right. That's it for now. Let's follow up
Nice.
separately.
Yeah. This is like, I'm just gonna say that I'm familiar with the concept of ergodicity in nonlinear dynamical systems. So I kind of understood what you say, but now I just gave a quick look, and now I understand the principles. So yeah, let's get together. This is what these talks are for, to make these amazing connections. So thanks, David. I think it's clear that we are doing, it's happening what should happen. So great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And Dennis, Dennis, why don't you and Chip go? I'll save my comment for after you two.
Okay, well, thank you, David. That was very interesting. And I'm going to have to be leaving shortly, so I'm grateful for the opportunity to connect with you, Tomas. One important aspect of AI that you did not cover is that AI is built on systems that are currently fabricated by digital monopolists and therefore connect people in particular ways that are designed to enhance the profits of these monopolists. And as a result, the learning of AI is going down a particular route, which is quite different from the route that it would go down if people had control of their personal data and were able to organize their social, economic, and political networks in accordance with their individual and collective needs. And therefore, the emergent phenomena that we see may not lead us in the hopeful direction that you indicated. Quite aside from the fact that I do not see the close connection between Nietzsche, especially in his later years, and multi-level selection. The Übermensch and emergent collective phenomena do not sit comfortably with one another. But I think those two comments are related because how AI is developing is itself an emergent phenomenon, and the exercise of economic and political power seems to play a really important role. I'd love to be in touch with you. I'm going to leaving in a minute or so, but I just hopefully that'll be enough for us to communicate afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I made just this brief comment of how education is meant to maintain the power structures. So I didn't go deeper on how technology development plays the same role. But just the quick answer to that is that you can't escape. I mean, I don't think we can escape from this as a fact, as a state of affairs. That's how things work, or have been working up to now. So understanding this, I think that we can. That's why I believe that the meta-system transition is the only way out, because a new form of system has to come out, and particularly using AI can be a tool for a particular moment, but that's not the end goal. Of course, I mean, if you ask me, I of course believe that all knowledge should be like free. The energy that builds these systems should also be common, and so on. But these are so many elements to ask for that I prefer to speak about what I can really do, because otherwise, I will spend my time saying what I don't like, and of course I don't like things. Otherwise, I wouldn't be trying to change. But yeah, let's go deeper on that as well to clarify how common our views are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chip, go ahead. And then, gosh, I'm being awfully altruistic by putting myself last in line, but Chip and Tanuja, and then I'm going to assert myself.
So what Tomas just said actually leads me to redirect a bit. I was blown away by this talk, starting with the picture of Thomas Kuhn, who I'd never seen when he was about the age when he would have written The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, when he was, like in his late 30s. All the other pictures I've seen, he was like my age. So that, that was already revelatory a bit. I can't respond to the technical side of this, the scientific side. What I can say, and I don't know where to take this, it's more comment than question, is that I'm in the process of trying to create a structure that I hope David will become a part of, in which we get people who are interested in a whole variety of overlapping areas to build a hub through which we can change not the academy, well, that would be fine, but the public as a whole, and decision makers and thought leaders. And if you take your purple, magenta, whatever color it was table, that middle column tracks neatly to what we're talking about. How do you create new systems? How do you bridge across islands? How do you get real-time recognition that things are changing? How do you scale? How do you help people begin to even think in terms of holistic mapping? But then you said something in response to Dennis's question that really grabbed me, because it's something that in the peace building world we're beginning to do, emphasis on beginning. And as you said, this is going to be my language, not yours. Focus on what we are for, not what we're against. And for me, the strength of what David is trying to do and the other people I'm trying to work with are trying to do is that we are not complaining about primarily what is happening, say the bombing that my country did over the weekend, but we're focused on building something that is new and different. And if you go back and read your Kuhn, the real strength of it is when he goes from the anomaly to the whole new way of thinking. And I said this morning with my therapist, who said, you've got to learn how to get these ideas out there in there's an American phrase here, big, bright neon lights. And
Yes.
this is probably not the structure for doing that with, but this was really food for thought. David, I'm glad you recorded it, because I need to go back to this and think about the science as well.
Yeah.
I'll quit my sermon.
That's great. Let's
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's more a comment, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that we will continue discussions, and I look forward to know more about your platform.
I have to
Right.
build it. We
Tanuja.
have to build it first.
Tanuja, and then I'll wrap up, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tomas. That was wonderful. I do complexity as well. My understanding from what you have presented is that you're talking about cooperation for the purpose of paradigm shift, but you're not specifically talking about economics. Is that correct?
It's correct.
Yeah, I thought so. And the paradigm, or rather the theory you want to do in the new paradigm, is to live in a complexity world. Yeah, is that correct?
I will say organic.
Organic. Oh, so
like,
perfect.
Like the complexity of organic, because we're not what's the name of this? The spin system, icing, not necessarily icing model, but more organic. When we say complexity, I don't know what exactly do you mean? So
that's perfect.
Just to make the correction, that is organic like complexity and not like ferromagnetic like complexity. Yeah.
That's perfect, because we call it living systems principles when we say organic. It's the same
Okay,
thing.
okay. Yeah. Okay, the same. Yes.
Yeah. So the idea of a university cooperation is wonderful. What I'm doing is trying, at least if I can, is to use a living systems principles to have a global coalition, association, something that will allow the emergence of a regenerative economy. Yeah, through emergence. And I think that's what you
Where
are
are you
doing as
based?
well. New York.
New York.
New York, yes. And I'd like your comment on something, please. You talk about AI and AI bringing all of these AI, the utilization of AI to support the kind of emergence that you're talking about. Yes. But then when you use AI, what you're typically talking about is disembodied knowledge.
Yeah.
And I wondered how you are going to bring that into living systems.
Yeah, that's a question that I can give. I will give the short answer. So when I made this distinction between theoretical, practical, and experiential knowledge, I'm not sure if you recall. So AI will only be able to operate at the theoretical knowledge part, and all the other aspects. Well, practical also can be reached through actually practice. You know, like you can become a good yoga practitioner if you practice every day, and there are things you can follow that are written, so you can still transfer part of the practical knowledge through the protocols that lead the practice, but you can give the knowledge itself. So an experiential, no chance. Like there's nothing you can get from theory. But yeah, well, I don't know, maybe a poem or something, non-representational theory knowledge, written knowledge could work. But just to give the short answer is, and dissecting knowledge in this way, passive and active, creative and theoretical, practical, it's actually the epistemological effort to understand the scope where AI can act. And this is part of my ongoing work. And I'm actually writing an article exactly on this, dissecting knowledge this way, and then saying how can we harness LLMs and all that to do part of the job there, but not all of the job. You won't become an empathetic being because you spend more time with an LLM. That's it. You need to do the practice. You need to do the experience. So this is
So your image of the ivory tower, and then the more holistic ivory tower, was perfect. But as you go through your work, if I may request that we take away the emphasis and the value we give to that ivory tower. Right now, that is more important than anything else. So we need to go into the practical world and say, here is here is the knowledge, but it is useless without the other half.
Yeah.
And we need to go there. Thank you.
Yeah. In particular, as a short comment, I have a foundation here in Chile that is aiming to do that, but it's not so easy because you need to have financial support, visibility, and that requires the creation of teams, and it's a very interesting. Their marketing has advanced a lot on this. Management and marketing fields, they know a lot about these things. And typically academics are very bad at those things. So I have had also undergo a learning process on how to make things visible and how to market your ideas, how to put them out, and so on. But now it's easier. That's the thing, that with AI it's easier now. And
that actually leads to my question. Tanuja, did you want to add to something?
May I add a sentence?
Yeah.
Are you following the Santiago theory of cognition?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am with Maturana. I mean, I was close to him, and many of the kind of the known authors of the Santiago School of Cognition are colleagues. Yeah. I'm actually 400 meters away from Maturana's lab here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my question is, what can the New Paradigm Coalition do in two stages? One is with its existing capacity, which is mostly a coordination capacity. And then number two is with added capacity, including added financial capacity. And you've just kind of, I think, given a hint with your own organization that there's only so much you can do with limited capacities. But I would love to think that given the people that are here, which are so like-minded, so bringing so much to the table, Graham, Januja, every one of us, that there would be something we could do. I mean, we're doing so little in terms of just basically entering ourselves into a social network database, which it seems to me we could do much better to graph our current social networks, to see what the nodes are, to see how to expand it. So much, I think, more we could do with our current capacities. And then, of course, augmented with better financial resources and so on. So what's your answer to that two-stage question? Current capacity and, of course, augmented capacity.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at this, it's that like a little bit taking lessons from the organic world as well. If a system is in a vulnerable state, it has to identify the place where its vulnerability it's diminished a little bit. So I think that we have to look first. The first stage is choosing the right set of actions that can lead you to plug to something, to someone, to some philanthropist, to something that allows you to at least maintain what we are doing, what the group is doing. So find a way to become self-maintaining. And that is either a business model or a philanthropist or a major grant. But we have to find a way to not be in permanent risk of disappearing. We have to find a way to remain, at least. And once you're able to remain, then you can grow a little bit and go the next stage and find the growth, like find the ways to. And I don't know what the business model of the Prosocial Coalition is. I'm new and I've been detached partially from it for time reasons and so on. But I think that with all the people here connected, like only those that spoke, and I know there are many more, there are so many things that we can do. And since I'm from the academia, I believe that something like an online course that you can charge, maybe, I don't know, some cheap, but give some recognition and try to bring as many big names as we can in order to, have more people taking the course. That can give just a baseline. And then, okay, it can be a course, it can be, it could be different things, products of different kind, but you need to come up with some sort of product that is the Prosocial Product Zero that is able to keep us floating. I do this with my foundation, and we have a magazine. This magazine publishes an article every 2 weeks. It's a whole of a work. You need to get the people to write, you get the design, put the thing online, make advertisement, do it in Instagram and blah, blah, blah. All that to get a subscription model that we have. And we're trying to subscribe people to our magazine, which is $7 a month. And with this, if we get 250 people subscribed, we know that we can keep the magazine running. That's our goal for hopefully the end of the year. Have 250 subscribers. And with 250, we know that we can make it. And then when we have the magazine, then we can start the teaching and so on. So I think that we have to strategize a scaffolding of actions that lead to stages where we can keep developing. And the first thing is to remain. And that's also a structural coupling theory, autopoiesis and then structural coupling.
Yeah,
sorry,
maybe
it's not precise enough.
No, it's precise enough. I think, no, it's very, I actually like that answer a lot. And there's so much more to say, but I think that actually, why don't we just call put this one in the can, as they say. So great to be able to share it. And then, of course, we want to continue with these multiple levels of nodes of activity. And each one has a separate opportunity, basically, to remain, that point about remaining. When we talk about the formation of hives or hubs, we say there's three initial conditions. One is you have to understand the new paradigm. That's conceptual. But the other is you have to have some base of operation that's capable of remaining and that
Yeah.
has some existing capacity to get something done. It might be that you're a professor at a school of economics, or you have a center at the Tec de Monterey in Monterey, or you're but some establishment. And there I think academia does offer a kind of a safe haven, because if you're doing this from an academic base, then you're at a university, and universities are, to some extent, they're islands of stability. You have people that are on salary and so on and so forth. There's so much you can get done at a university. Although in other respects, universities are very far away from understanding any of this once you acknowledge the structure of the university. But and then you need something like what we're establishing here, and on and on. But this has been a wonderful. I really loved it, Thomas. Hard for me to articulate actually the different ways in which I appreciate what you're what you're um, what you're saying. So thank you, and then we'll continue on multiple fronts.
Thank you. Yeah, nice to see you guys.
All righty.
Let's stay in touch.
Bye.
It was a pleasure, really.
Till next time. All
Bye-bye.
right, everyone. Bye-bye.